Hello everybody. Welcome to those who haven't been here before. Welcome back to those who have watched before. Thanks for coming again. My name is Aaliyah Langley. The Apple event just finished. It just finished like not even 10 minutes ago. The Apple event from the 7th of May, 2024, and it was all about iPad as I predicted and as much everyone predicted. I was ferociously taking notes because I was like I wanted to hop on here right away while I still had like my reactions and everything going on. Everything that they announced, people kind of expected to a level, but also like it's always I feel like it's always nice to hear from Apple and like to kind of get the visuals and to kind of see what they're thinking. So I was really excited to watch this event. As I've said, iPad has been one of my favorite Apple devices I've had for several years now, and it just continues to improve and improve, and it's great. So let's just jump right in. So the video starts with, obviously, if you've watched an Apple event, you know they always have these cool like pictures of their campus or all these types of things going on. So we had that. We swooped in. We came to Tim Cook, CEO, and he basically started the day with saying, "This is the biggest day for iPad since its introduction." So hearing that right away, I was like, "Oh wow, this is going to be we're in for a ride here. We're excited to see what's going on and really kind of set the scene for what we were about to see." So quickly, just some quick updates on Apple Vision Pro came a couple months ago, and they're doing great there with people innovating and doing things like that. And MacBook Air M3 has been the most popular MacBook 13-inch or computer 13-inch or 15-inch, whatever. But we're not here for that. We're here for the iPads. So we moved to iPad, and first up, they went right with iPad Air. So as was predicted, the iPad Air is in two sizes now, the 11-inch and 13-inch. And also, when he said 13-inch, I said, okay, so we're away from the 12.9, because before we were saying the bezels might be able to spread a little bit more to get to 13 inches. So we're officially there. That's going to be the same for the iPad Pro. First time that the iPad Airs had two different sizes, so that's really nice. Liquid Retina display, no surprise there. The 13-inch has 30% more screen real estate than the 11-inch. There's landscape stereo speakers. There's double bass in the 13-inch Air compared to the 11-inch. And it comes in four colors. I'll put the pictures here. I was grabbing all types of pictures throughout the event as well. There's a new blue and a new purple, as well as a starlight and a space gray. I feel like iPad Air, the older iPad, like the original iPad, the iPad 10th generation, has a lot more colors, but four colors I feel like is adequate and decent enough. And the new blue and new purple look nice. There's an M2 chip inside the iPad Air. I think some people were expecting maybe the M3. They're on to the M3 in the Max and things like that. So people were kind of maybe wanting that, but M2 is great as well. You would be happy with that. And it's 3 times faster performance than was in the last chip, which was the A15 Bionic. You got to remember here, there's no iPad updates all of last year for any iPad. So it's basically this is a second year refresh. Like it's been a bit of time, and that is the updates there. There was an AI mention right away. We had a couple more AI mentions in the keynote. So I was like, okay, Apple usually avoids saying AI, but they said it this time and kind of helps, kind of like little performance enhancements that come through the iPad. It starts at $599 and $799 for the 13-inch, $599 for the 11-inch, $799 for the 13-inch, and it starts at 128 gigabytes this time. It goes all the way up to 1 terabyte, which is an update, which is good because before it started at 64 gigabytes, which I said in my last preview video. If you haven't seen that, I guess you could watch it, but there's probably no point in it. Might as well just watch this. That 64 gigabytes is not enough for anybody. It's just really not. You need to go higher than that. So I'm happy to see that they updated it to 128. You can order it today, and it's available next week. And also little bits with like the Apple Pencil, like since it has the M2 chip, you can have that kind of hover feature that they released 2 years ago now, and little things like that are the M2 chip are just going to continue just to make it like a much better device, which is great. But the thing we all kind of wanted to hear and talk about was the iPad Pro, the new iPad Pro. So they started with this kind of like smushing video of all these like things being smushed under one of those big presses. And we're like, okay, what's going on? It's colors popping out, all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you see iPad in the center of the stage. Not surprised, very Apple to kind of have that. And the tagline that they said was incredibly thin, incredibly powerful. And they showed a picture, I'll have it here, of this iPad that looks so thin. It was kind of reminding me a little bit of like when Steve Jobs announced the MacBook Air for the first time, and like pulled out the envelope and just had it, and like, oh, look how thin it is. It was kind of like that. I saw some people saying like, what could go wrong here? Because like a device so thin could be maybe dangerous if you drop it or mess it up, but hey, whatever. And they also said we envision iPad as a magical sheet of glass, which I can see. Again, 11-inch, 13-inch. Before it was like 11 and 12.9, but again, I'm kind of pushing the bezels out. They never really actually addressed that, but you can see that was the case. and it's their thinnest iPad, their thinnest actually Apple device ever. The 11-inch is 5.3 millimeters thin, and the 13-inch is 5.1 millimeters thin, thinner than the iPad Nano, like I said. So it's the thinnest device Apple has ever created, which is kind of like, wow, that's amazing. Also, the 11-inch is just under a pound. It's 0.9 pounds, and the 13-inch is 1.28 pounds. So very, very slight, very, very great. As I was saying in my last video, like, iPads are already pretty. I mean, it has a little bit of weight to it, but they're awful light devices. They had a comparison showing the last iPad to the new one they're coming to kind of see like what it looked like side by side, and you can see it's much thinner. So that's that's what they're going with. Comes in silver and space black. No surprise, they're usually boring with the colors. As I suspected, OLED, which comes with a lot of great things. They actually said they created something that uses 2 OLED panels because they want to deliver the XDR that Apple users expect. So they created something called tandem OLED, which is 2 OLED displays basically mirroring off each other and like having the light. And they had again great visuals. It looks really, really, really great, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this actually looks like in person in my hands. It's 1,000 nits of full brightness in SD and HD, but also 1,600 nits of peak HDR. It's really, really great. Display looks really, really great, and again, it'll be one of those things I want to actually look at myself and poke around with to kind of see the comparison, the difference. But I know OLED is definitely a big step up. If anybody has like OLED TV or got one versus like they had HD one before, you can definitely notice the difference, and like how great they are. Performance, no surprise, kind of a surprise, no surprise. They put the M4 chip in it, so they are debuting the M4 chip in iPad, which is nice. They're on the M3, like I said before, on the Macs and things like that. So this is the first Apple device that have M4 in it. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an M4 and something else, later when they have September event, October event, a couple months from now. But again, this is the update the iPad has had. They hadn't had one all last year, so they're jumping from M2, jumping up to M4. So it's a 50% faster CPU than the last iPad, which had M2. Not surprising. Also, they said comparing it to like the latest PC chip, the new iPad Pro is just as fast, if not faster, than like a laptop, a PC laptop, and it can do that with only using a quarter of its power. Something they want to emphasize. Which I feel like we've seen the Apple Silicon chips have been just everything we've heard about them and personally in using them, and I hope some of you guys have used them too, or maybe you have. They've been just like beyond, like compared to before they had the Intel chips, and there was only so much that could be done there. So making their own chips for their own devices, we've really just seen the performance just like this leap. It's been incredible. So I can imagine this M4 just being awesome, because even I'm on the M1 iPad right now, and this M1 iPad is like amazing, and it's just fabulous. And even I have M1 in this computer I'm speaking to you right now and recording this video on. It's really been great. It's been such a jump from what we used to have before, so I could see it's awesome. They also just want to know it's 4 times faster than the last iPad, again with M2, and 10 times faster than the first iPad Pro, which isn't a shock because the first iPad Pro came out in 2016, so I would hope it'd be like 10 times faster. It's been 8 years, so another great things there and all that kind of stuff. Next, we have Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro 2 in the iPad. So Final Cut and Logic Pro have been in the iPad for over a year now, and they've been, I guess probably 2 years now, because I guess the last update. And they've been, I know people have mentioned them and have talked about them. I have never personally used either on my iPad. I remember I downloaded it just to kind of see, but I also am not a Final Cut Pro, like, I'm not great at it. I'm trying to get better even just on my computer, so on the iPad it seems like a whole different like landscape. But there are several updates there that they have. The first one I want to talk about is Live Multicam. So Live Multicam, and again, they were showing like someone basically shooting like on kind of like a rock climbing place and like showing that, and it was really great to see. Live Multicam enables filmmakers to preview up to 4 cameras all at once, so you can, and they're all in the same place on your iPad, and you can connect cameras and see like how people adjust shots and all that kind of stuff. And this is possible by a new app called Final Cut Camera, and this is something that you can download on your iPad or your iPhone, and to basically connect yourself to the Final Cut Pro like main stage that you're using to kind of do those kind of connections and work on exposure, light balance, focus, and all types of stuff, which really looks cool. So they were showing like how the shot was working and everything like that, and it was really like nice to be put together. Also, another thing that's really big is you can finally edit directly off a drive on Final Cut Pro 2 on iPad. This is something again, like I said, I didn't use Final Cut Pro on my iPad personally, but I know people were saying, oh, you can't edit off a drive. That was one of the hindrances, one of the reasons people didn't start doing Final Cut Pro on the iPad, because you have to you can't do it off the drive, which wouldn't be great. Also, I know another hindrance I've heard of people, if you have a project on iPad, you could bring it to the Mac, but you couldn't bring it back to iPad. That might still be the case. I'm not sure what the thing is there, but I know definitely having the ability to go directly off the drive with the with great Thunderbolt connection that we have will be definitely a big help, especially if you're out in the field. Next up, we have Logic Pro 2. Now, Logic Pro is something I really don't know anything about. I've only used Logic Pro once. Back when I got my master's, I had to do a podcast assignment, and I told my classmate it was a group project. I said, I have this app. I could put our podcast on there and work it out. And I really had no idea how to use it, so I just went on YouTube, looked up how to do the basics, and I did my podcast assignment there, and it worked smooth, and that's great. But past that, I have nothing. So hearing from, especially on the iPad, the people talking about Logic Pro, I was like, this seems cool. Something I will not be probably using, but still, it was nice to see. They're really trying to enhance with Final Cut Pro as well. All through touch, they want to have touch being, I guess if you're using an iPad, you want to be able to touch things. Have that be the center of it and have that kind of, drive it. There's session players. I guess on Logic Pro before there was a drumming thing you could have. Now they've added bass and keyboard player, which is nice. There's something called Chroma Glow that they're going to have in Logic Pro 2, which will kind of just enhance the app and make it better for the users who are using it on the iPad. So seems great. Again, I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to even speak more about it. But again, 2 good updates to 2 apps that I think maybe help people want to use these powerful apps on their iPad more. Next up, we have a camera. So I didn't even realize this at first because I was I'm typing notes so much. But there's only 1 camera now on the iPad Pro. As before, we have this with the 2 cameras. Now it's just 1, which is fine, 12 megapixel and all that stuff. And also the front-facing camera is on landscape now instead of portrait. This is the same in the iPad Air that they have. I've been wanting this in a camera on landscape for a long time. They have this on landscape in, I know, the 10th generation iPad and maybe in the iPad mini, I don't remember. But I think this is nice because it just makes sense to have. I feel like having the camera landscape is just going to be, I don't know, I feel like I've wanted that for a long time. Like I said, it's been on past Apple devices, iPad devices, so it's nice to finally have an iPad Pro and iPad Air, and I think it's just a better position for it to be than the portrait. Now we're moving on to the accessories, so starting up first with Magic Keyboard. Now, Magic Keyboard, there's a function row finally, which is really great to see. Finally they're giving us a function row. I feel like that's something that everyone who has a Magic Keyboard has wanted. I remember when they had the MacBooks with the touch bar, for a while people were annoyed because, if the touch bar froze, there was no function row. If you couldn't actually set a function row to be there at all times, you wouldn't have one. And that was very, very irritating at times, so it's nice to actually have that in the keyboard. Also, updates they have on the trackpad to make it really feel like you're working on a Mac. All type of thing that just looks nice. And also just keeping with the thin design to kind of keep it. I wonder how heavy. I'm sure it will still be heavy because you have to have it strong enough to be able to hold the weight and the floating display and also the keyboard and stuff like that and the technology with it. But we'll see if it's any lighter than what it is now. But especially if they're going to have this very light iPad, you don't want to have some heavy keyboard. Because like I said, I usually carry my iPad around in that keyboard case. And that keyboard case is awful heavy. I don't remember how heavy it is, but if the iPad's only, a pound or, 1.2 pounds, then you don't want to have something be so heavy, but we'll see what they have. And not surprised, 2 colors to match the iPad. Starts again, same price, $299 for the 11-inch, $349 for the 13-inch. No surprise there. And next is Apple Pencil Pro. So this was expected. Everyone kind of was thinking they were going to make some great new Apple Pencil. It's been a couple years since we've had a good update there. The first thing I want to say is there's Find Mine Apple Pencil, which is awesome. I can't tell you how many times my sister or my mother just lose their Apple Pencil, and there's been times when, I remember my sister bought a new Apple Pencil, and then finally later she found an Apple Pencil deep in the couch somewhere. My mother loses Apple Pencils like it's a sport. It happens so many times. I am proud to say I have my 2 Apple Pencils. The only time I lost one, I left the one I had at the time at my parents' house, and then I just bought another one, and then when they came to see me next, they brought me one. So I have 2, which kind of works. So I keep one at home, and I have one in my go bag or the bag I take to work and things like that. So finally, Apple Pencil is going to be definitely a great thing for many people who lose little devices like this. So I'm really happy to hear that that's a new thing. But there's so many great things with Apple Pencil that they were just showing us. But I also feel like it's one of those things you're going to want to actually use to kind of fully get the capabilities and see what it really is going to give. The first though, there's a new haptic feedback kind of feature, which in the pencil, if you kind of squeeze at the beginning, there's already little things in it now, but now you squeeze and like a kind of array of options comes up. I'll have a picture here to kind of show you where you can click on something. Again, they have the hover capability that's still in there, so that's kind of good with terms of like this kind of array of like options you can pick. You can also do something called a barrel roll, where if you roll the pencil, it can change like, color, size, like orientation of something you're working on. And just, again, it's one of those things that I feel like I'm going to want to actually use it to see myself and see how it goes. And you can have the list of things, but it's really one of those things you want to have in your hand. They had someone from Procreate showing us them making this great like drawing they were doing, and they were showing, I wish I could have recorded it. They were showing like all these things they were doing, and like not even touching the screen really, but just like using their pencil to kind of switch around. And I can imagine how much more efficient that would be if you're a person doing like drawings on there, or even just like general note taking and stuff like that. I can see how that can be just so much enhanced and so much more efficient and faster and just fun and great. So it looks really, really cool. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. It starts at $129 actually. I want to see if they're keeping this pencil for the iPad Pro still though. They did say that the Apple Pencil Pro works for the iPad Air. So they said the iPad Air they have two options to use it. So does that mean that this doesn't have the second generation Apple Pencil doesn't work for the iPad Pro anymore? That is my question. I wonder. And also on the flip side, does the Apple Pencil Pro work on older iPad generations? So that's my question. I probably would look into that more to see, because I'd be really interested to actually try it. And yeah. So the price. There was a price jump on the new iPad. Not as much as some people thought there would be, but still a jump nonetheless. The new iPad started at $999 for the 11-inch, iPad Pro, I should say. $999 for the 11-inch and $1299 for the 13-inch. Before, they were $799 and $1099, so $200 up each. Some people thought maybe it could go up to as much as $1,500 for like the 13-inch, so I'm glad it didn't go that high. I think that'd be ridiculous. But like I did say, they did go up in storage, so like there's no more baseline of 128, which I think no one would want anyway. 256 is like the bare minimum for an iPad Pro at that. So, I mean, we'll see. I feel like people will still get these devices and will still, what can you do? That is the new iPad Pro. It looks like a wicked device. I'm excited to actually get my hands on it. Like I said, I'm not actually planning on buying a new iPad, but I want to just like see and go with it and see like what it looks like and play with. Especially if I can get the new Apple Pencil Pro. That's what I really want to try and really want to work with. But we'll happen to see what happens. Like I said, you can order today and they're available next week. Same with iPad Airs. They mentioned iPad OS quickly, but I imagine that's something they're probably going to go over in more detail at WWDC in June. And I'm excited to see like kind of what the new OS looks like in terms of like how else they'll be able to improve all the things they put into it in terms of the display, in terms of the chip, all the kind of stuff, what OS kind of is able to do for it. So looking forward to that update as well next month. So yeah, that is the main gist of the event. Tim Cook came and closed it out for us. He said that the iPad 10th generation has a new starting price at $349. That is the base model. There's that one, the iPad mini, the iPad Air, and the iPad Pro. So there's really a whole line of iPads you can pick from and choose from, and it's a really great device. Like I said, it's one of my favorite devices. And that was he really just gave us a synopsis saying we're looking forward to you guys having these devices and what we've been able to achieve here. And that was it. The very last screen, it said shot on iPhone, edited on Mac and iPad, which I wasn't surprised they were probably going to end up being something like that with iPad integrated. I remember months ago when it was like the Halloween event, they had at the end of it, they said completely shot on like iPhone and edited on iPhone. So I was kind of assuming it was going to be like that again. So that was a nice little touch to end the day. And that is the Apple event of 2024. So that is the May 2024 Apple event. Thanks so much for watching. If you are getting an iPad, or if you have an iPad, drop it in the comments. I want to know like what iPad are you getting? What iPad do you have? What do you use most on iPad? Like what is like your favorite feature with it if you have one? Also, I want to say at the beginning of the keynote, they were showing like kind of use cases for iPad and like how people like it so much. And they said if it's students using iPad to use GoodNotes and take notes. Hello, like I said before, GoodNotes, you need to sponsor me. You need to give me free GoodNotes for life. I sold so many GoodNotes subscriptions, like how many years ago? 7 years ago, I sold so many GoodNotes subscriptions. I should be getting GoodNotes like for free for life. I just want to say, if you happen to watch this, hit me up. You know where to find me. But overall, like I said, yeah, comment it below if you're getting an iPad, if you have an iPad. Why do you like it so much? What do you use with it? And yeah, thank you so much for watching the little recap that I have had here. Hopefully I got everything good enough. I'm sure there'll be a lot of other great ones out there, but thanks for choosing this one and watching this one to the end. I will see you guys in my next video. And yeah, thanks.